Hey everyone, this is Scrap Computer here. This video is going to cover how do you avoid tilt. This is one of the biggest questions that the entire community asks most content creators, and a question I get a lot, and I get asked at least 2 times a day on my stream. So I'm going to try and cover it so I can link people to there whenever they ask me. So to combat our enemy, we have to know what it is. Tilting is an occurrence when a player is on a downward spiral of gameplay and are generally playing a lot worse than normal due to mental frustrations. They will be making worse decisions, getting frustrated, getting angry, making overly aggressive, overly passive plays, and in general playing without thinking. Due to this, they lose a lot of games. This is tilting. So why do players go on tilt? This is where a little psychology comes into place and a little understanding of the human brain can come into play. I'm going to define this as an entirety. So as an overview, the human brain has 3 main layers: the neocortex, the limbic, and the reptilian brain, all of which generate certain functions and they provide certain individual different things. I'll explain them all and what this means for you and how it applies to League. The neocortex. This is seen below as at the top of the brain and predominantly the frontal lobe, although it still consists of other structures as well. These hemispheres have been responsible for the development of human language, abstract thought, imagination, consciousness. The neocortex is flexible and has almost infinite learning capabilities. Basically, the neocortex is your ability to use high-level thought and play just for problem-solving skills. This is the best and most intellectual a person can be. This is your consciousness, your ability to basically process what I'm saying right now and have your own thoughts and opinions for it is the neocortex basically doing its job. So whenever a professional player is making a rotation from top to bot lane, they're using the neocortex to make a high level decision, conceptualizing the concept and applying something onwards. This is the highest thought an individual can use in League of Legends. The neocortex is all of the high level decisions you will make. So applied to the general League of Legends player, this is your ability to generate an attack plan, to know how the matchup conceptually works up, to project high level plays through rotations, ability times, objective timers, where you should rotate, where you should be, movement patterns, or as we also know them, out please, come largely from this part of the brain. This is the head in a literal and figurative sense of a player. This is a powerful computer in your mind and is used for high level functions and thought. To rotate, to know where you're meant to be, to know how to position, to know what the projected outcome of a certain individual fight could be. This is all of that high level beautiful thought. This is a part of the brain when you're playing League, it should always be on, you always want it on. The ability to think is all of what League of Legends is about. This is the incarnation of the neocortex. Now, this portion of your brain, although being the most powerful, is also the most vulnerable. If you get agitated or angry or your emotions get the better of you, it can be temporarily turned off or numbed. Yes, you can lose the ability to actually properly plan and think, and this is basically why you go on tilt. When you're on tilt, you'll lose this portion of your brain. Well, not completely lose it, but for the most part, you're not going to be able to activate it like you normally could do. When you're angry and all tilt, this means that you can't think in a high level function, which means you're going to lose more games, which means you're going to get even more angry. To use portions of the brain, you have to use this portion specifically. You have to be calm and calculated. You've got to be in a good mindset, you've got to be calculating constantly, keeping calm, keeping everything cool, and you can't be getting angry or frustrated or agitated, or you lose the ability to have a higher level function of thought. This could absolutely destroy your chance of winning any game. When you're angry and on tilt, you're not thinking, you're not using those hundreds or thousands of games of League knowledge, you're going on instincts and sometimes even less than that. So to play well, you have to be calm to use this portion of your brain. Now, we also have the limbic brain. This is referred to also as the mammal or mammalic brain, as this portion of our brain originally emerged as we were basic mammals. The mammalic brain can record memories of behaviors that are produced agreeable and of course disagreeable experiences. So it is responsible for what humans call emotions, which we all call emotions of course, but just that's the correlate for it. The limbic brain is the seat of the value judgments that we make, often unconsciously, that exert a strong influence in our behavior. Basically our ability to recall memories. So all of the games you played in League of Legends, all of the stats, cooldown timers, tactics, strategies, experience, tiny little tips, small movements, anything you can think of League of Legends will predominantly be stored here. Knowledge we need to get to feed up to the neocortex. Without this portion of the brain, the neocortex will have a limited amount of data to play with, so the more you play, the more your limbic brain, the more data it has for your neocortex. Hence, the more you play, the better you get. The mammalic brain and neocortex are linked strongly here and give you the ability to ensure that we can recall data. Then let the neocortex make the decisions after feeding it up, after the mammalic brain has given the data up. An important process. Behavior patterns. This is a massively undervalued point. The ability to tell if something was good or a bad decision and make a pattern on it is one of the most important things in League of Legends. This also gives the data up to the neocortex. So in League terms, the last 2 games I ult in Olaf early and I died due to his massive damage. I see a pattern here. He's strong early game, don't all in him. Good patterns are important to spot when improving League of Legends, as well as spotting bad ones so you avoid them. This makes the mammalic brain very important. Now, this part of the brain can also be numbed as well. If you get extremely angry or annoyed, your ability to send up data and just make processing power from the limbic brain comes just basically as a null. And in addition, it's also not going to work for the neocortex. And now this means that the neocortex and the limbic brain are both generally not working that great because you're going to be angry and frustrated. You're going to be using the next point I'm going to make. This means that you'll lose the ability to correlate good and bad data. You'll lose the ability to recall memories and all of your recollections of League of Legends. It means you're running blind, and when this happens, we start to get into a little bit of problems. Once again, getting very angry, very agitated, it gets you just a general massive surge of emotions, and you lose the recall abilities, behavioral pattern, basics. Everything about this means you're just running blind through the snow and you just don't have any clue what you're doing. This even furthermore will escalate the situation if you're tilting because you haven't got your neocortex either. So you're not thinking on a high level, you've got nothing to process in between because you're not recalling any memories anymore because you're getting really angry, and that means that you're done. You're going to start losing a lot, and that's just not possible. It's just not great. Have you ever been playing on tilt and had the inability to think? This is exactly what is happening to you. You can think, but you're not, hence you can't win. Finally, we have the most important of the 3 and the one I wanted to describe the most, the reptilian brain. This can also be called the lizard brain and the amygdala. The reptilian being the oldest of the 3 controls the body's vital functions such as heart rate, breathing, body temperature, balance, and also controls our main fight or flight decisions and reactions. So, the reptilian brain is reliable but tends to be somewhat rigid and very compulsive. Remember that word. This portion of the brain generally works a lot quicker, far quicker than the rest of them, making quick, reactive decisions, and was originally used to say when you were in danger. This portion of the brain can make the fastest decisions out of all of the other portions, but it comes at a great price. When you're extremely angry or straight up just annoyed as hell, you do to a massive degree use this portion of your brain a lot more than you usually do. This means instead of making good decisions, laying out pros and cons, using recall and behavioral patterns, trying to think that high level function, feeding it up to the neocortex, you don't do that. You will say to yourself, we need a plan of attack. I do have a plan, attack. You're not going to think. You turn into a cowboy. Any slight play you see, you'll go for it, going for every weakness and sometimes straight up going at anything you just damn feel like. Have you ever been playing League annoyed and got so easily baited? You just run at your enemy, you lose patience, you jump into the fray. Welcome to the reptilian brain. Welcome to the first portion of our brain we developed. You're now less intelligent than the regular animal for a short period of time. This is why you're losing and why you're on tilt. You're basically a dumb animal and not using the potentially amazing neocortex that the human beings have been blessed with. The ability to think in high level function is one thing specifically only used as far as we're aware with humans in this planet right now. So that basically means that you're removing that ability. Now, most importantly, this portion of the brain is the defensive portion. If you're attacked, this portion, the amygdala, will immediately come into play. So someone on the street comes up to you and threatens you. This portion of your brain will immediately activate. That is why you can't think your way out of some fighting scenarios sometimes. You just react compulsively without any control of your actual body. This part of your brain has got strings all over your arms and are moving yourself, unfortunately, and there's nothing you can really do about it in those massive scenarios. But in those scenarios, it's kind of helpful. The ability to defend yourself is of course invaluable. So how does this apply to League? Well, your brain can't really differentiate the comparable difference between losing your 5th game of League in a row and a guy threatening you in the street. You will feel agitated, you will feel basically something coming upon you, you'll basically feel threatened. It's a basic tool for a basic function. When you lose that 5th game, the reptilian brain, the amygdala, will temporarily take over for a perceived threat, for a game you could have won maybe, and give you just basic and emotional reaction. The problem is from here, the amygdala generally asks for a physical reaction or a solvable reaction in general. If you can't solve it, you're going to get even more agitated, and basically the amygdala's going to look again, what can I do to solve this? And the problem is, with this basic portion of the brain, there is no solving tool. There's nothing, there's no redeeming factor, there's nothing you can do to fix it. And that means you're just going to get more and more agitated and keep on using the amygdala more and more. And you're not going to push up from the amygdala into the neocortex for something a little bit more beautiful. Something like, oh, well, that gas game, you could have done this and that, and I could have rotated up here, and I made a mistake, I was overextending there. Instead, you're going to be, oh my god, the freaking no words, that freaking Amumi, oh my god, he just lost me this, Jesus Christ, and you just can't think. You can't think. Everything's very loud, everything's in your way. And that's the main problem. The amygdala cannot solve this reaction. Generations past, this part of the brain was used for a guy coming down the street to attack you, or a lion coming at you, not losing a League of Legends game. Since we've no potential solve for this, our part of the brain simply becomes more and more aggravated and essentially just shuts down because it can't solve the issue for you, hence the reason why tilt lasts so long. At this point, our mammalic and neurofrontal cortex are not functioning nearly as much as they normally should. Even furthermore, we can't figure out how to solve the issue. Without logic and reason, the neocortex, how the hell are you meant to solve a high complex League of Legends problem? We get out-rotated. Why did we get out-rotated? Should I have went for this objective? Should I have went here? Itemization mistakes. I played the matchup incorrectly. I didn't hypothetically apply something onwards. I didn't notice this guy moving this certain way. I didn't CS properly. I wasn't thinking. I didn't think where anyone else was. I was rotating and they were coming in upon me and I wasn't looking at the map, and you just get more and more frustrated. And that's just basically a massive issue. Normally, logic and reason can kick you out if you're not angry. But you are, so the amygdala can't figure anything out to do, and it's merely coming back with nothing, and our higher level thought is completely shut down. That is the thing that is completely screwing a lot of players over. This is tilt, the inability to think in general. You're going off emotions and not data, and League of Legends is data. This is why you're losing, but it's not all bad. There are ways to solve this problem, which I'll cover in part 2 of this video. This has been the basically for the science part, and just basically what's happening to your brain and why this is all functioning. This is the part I wanted to go over quite solidly. I'm a man of science, I'm a man of psychology, and I felt that explaining this part will allow you to basically cognitively connect with it and ensure you can actually fight the enemy at our door. So as a whole, I want to represent this in a diagram. So we got the neocortex at the top, that's all for higher level function. Then we've got the mammalic brain, limbic brain, and then we've got the amygdala, or just reptilian brain in general. As you can see, this is actually a tiered system, and this is actually in layman's terms how it works. If you get slightly frustrated, you'll mainly use your mammalic brain. So the neocortex is actually kind of been faded out a little bit. If you get very annoyed, you'll use your reptilian brain. That means that both your limbic and of course your neocortex have been shaded out and are just not functioning normally. This is a tiered system. Depending upon how annoyed you are is how well you'll be able to function both of these parts of the brain. A little bit annoyed, you can still use your neocortex, but not maybe as well. Annoyed, you're only going to be able to use your limbic brain like very well, and if you're extremely angry, you can only use your reptilian brain, and that's an issue. As you can see, this is how it all works as a whole, and this is just very important to understand how to combat tilt. Understanding your enemy is the first key to fighting it. Insert, I literally just added this in before my final render. I was explaining this video to a friend, and I've been told G-Bay, I did not know, has made a video very similar to mine on the subject. Little bit pissed, not at him of course, he's a good content creator, just I didn't know it existed. I thought I was being really smart using science, apparently not. Unfortunately, they're kind of similar when it comes to the amygdala. Everything else is different though when I cover everything else completely differently. But it's a little bit common at the end. I'm kind of annoyed. I felt I came up with this amazing little snippet that nobody else has come up with, this science and why people tilt, and apparently I'm a scrub and I'm a couple of years late, but I mean, there you go. I'm a little annoyed. Fair play to GB for getting there before me. I just wanted to mention that, guys, in case someone thought I was copying the man. And that's it for the part 1, the science and how it all works together, guys. In my next section, I'm going to be covering both how to get away from tilt if you're tilting and how to avoid tilt if you're not, both of which are going to be very important. And in the next video, I'm going to go over tactics, little strategies you can do to basically calm yourself down as much as you can as well. Hopefully that's going to help. The link will be below right now if you're looking up on the screen. And that's it for the video, guys. If you like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you can subscribe. And everything that's horrible and I'm totally wrong and this is absolute garbage video and it's really poor quality, you can unsub. I am totally fair. I also stream at Twitch TV, guys. You can use your near frontal cortex to get there. You know, assess to see if it's good enough. I know you guys have it in there. But of course, I mainly make educational and of course a little bit of fun content as well. I'd love to see you there. Beyond that, guys, have a great day. Best of luck in the Rift and I'll see you guys next time.